Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Matthew Dickinson is Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks, Rod. How are you going today?
Very good. We normally talk with you on a Monday. It's not Monday today, but they had a very important conference to get to.
Yesterday, you're right, in Sydney at Parliament House, I was at the Local Roads Congress. This is a congress that's typically held each year. About 18 years this has been going for. And one of the things that's interesting there is it's a good chance just to see where we're headed in terms of our roads, what the opportunities are, what changes are happening. One of the things that's interesting is at the end of 2022 and early 2023, when we had all that damage to our roads with all the rain that was around, that was absolutely the number one topic that people wanted to talk to councils about. When are you going to fix the roads? When are you going to get the roads right? Obviously, we've spent a lot of time doing that and we've had some better weather for roads. So it's still lurking under the surface there, but it's not as front of mind for most people now because a lot of those major repairs have been done on roads now. But it's still good to look at what's happening with roads. And one of the things that I did really enjoy yesterday looking at was a tool they've been testing down on one particular council, but something that potentially we could roll out, and we're certainly looking at it in Dubbo, is having a way to continually judge the standard of our roads. And one of the obvious ways to do that is with our garbage trucks. If you think about it, our garbage trucks are pretty much on every piece of road in the urban environment every single week. So having some type of camera with an AI tool behind that to continually look for things in the roads, potholes, cracks in the roads, that type of thing, so we're aware of those. And if we can repair some of those before they get to be bigger, obviously it can be cheaper for us long term. So we saw a video of a demonstration of that type of technology, so I think that's something that absolutely will be looked at in the future. The other one that was a topic of discussion was EVs, and there's a few things about EVs that were discussed. Charging infrastructure obviously was one. The heavier weight of electric vehicles over normal petrol vehicles. Again, that was an interesting discussion because it talked about the fact that if you compare a light sedan EV compared to a light sedan petrol vehicle, it's heavier, but then a lot of people drive around in SUVs or four-wheel drives, which are obviously heavier again. So that was one part of the discussion. The other part of the discussion I thought was fascinating, Rod, was in relation to the funding. So some people were concerned about EVs and petrol because you've got a fuel excise tax on petrol. And some people were concerned what would happen when everyone started using an EV. We wouldn't be able to have money for our roads because we have no fuel excise tax. What was pointed out was that 1929 that fuel excise tax started, and that was then dedicated entirely to our roads. So every dollar that was collected went straight to our roads. By 1957, they said, well, this isn't working. We're getting too much money from our fuel excise tax. So the fuel excise tax was removed from going straight to our roads. So it goes straight to general revenue. So it's not actually going all towards our roads at the moment. But again, that fuel excise tax does contribute to our general revenue. What can replace that once people aren't buying fuel anymore is a per kilometre charge going to be the best way forward. So again, different things looked at, and just overall funding of roads. I think that's always a big topic of discussion.
Would have been fascinating. I'm glad you could update us a bit on that. A hot topic around the Dubbo Regional Council area is what's happening with the sale yards. You've made a decision, haven't you?
Very good. No, we haven't made a decision. I have said it once or twice or 1,000 times so far that no decision's been made. And if I get technical about it, Rod, if any councillor said, I've made a decision about the sale yards, that would actually be a breach of our Code of Conduct policy. And if you want to get very technical, sections 3.4, 3.15 and 8.7 are the three sections you would be potentially breaching if you went out there and had a predetermined position before a council meeting. So no decision's been made. The EOI process is only just closed for our sale yards. We haven't even seen the actual EOIs yet, councillors I'm talking about. We've got a workshop this Thursday to start to drill down into those EOIs and look at those in more detail. At the council meeting on the 27th of June, a decision will be made. And when I say a decision will be made, at least a direction. For example, we might decide that selling is the best way to go, or a lease might be the best way to go, or keeping it internally. But let's say, for example, we decided a lease or a sale, we could then go out for a further process where we would actually have a tender specifically for that. Once we decide the general direction, then we could go out with another process there. So a decision with a direction will be made at the June council meeting. And again, we've appreciated all the feedback we've had from people. This has been a process that's been ongoing for some time. We've been discussing this with the community. It'll be good to get to the end and give some clear direction about where we're going. But You're right. No decision has been made yet, Rod.
All right, and council's also looking at it, I see, in regards to a Dubbo Indoor Aquatic Centre.
That's certainly one thing that's been bubbling away again for many years. One of the things that's interesting in relation to that is just the funding availability for that. We've had previous reports done, and those reports have shown anywhere from, say, $20, $25 million up to $70 million to build some type of indoor aquatic leisure centre there, some all-year-round facility, some heated pool, indoor facility, whole range of options there we've looked at. We have, at the last council meeting, set aside $30,000 to go and explore those in greater detail, so at least we'll have some type of product there, some type of plan sitting on the shelf, so that if funding funding becomes available, then we've got something to be able to lob onto government for those grants. One of the other discussions that's been interesting, Rod, is that let's say we got some sort of sale prices for our sale yards of $30 million or more. Maybe one of the options that council have been talking about is, well, a better option might be to sell the sale yards, take that money and put that in towards an indoor aquatic leisure centre, some type of indoor heated pool for Dubbo. That might be of more benefit to more ratepayers than the sale yards are. So whole range of options in front of us there, Rod.
Definitely, and one that would be very beneficial, well, in my opinion. Now, what's happened with Barden Park? It's looking smick.
It is looking very smick at the moment. 2014, November 2014, we had the opening. Rob D. Costello was there, famous marathon legend Rob D. Costello at the opening. And one of the things that we knew when we built Barden Park was that as an athletics facility with an international standard track and accreditation as such, we would need to budget to replace that track as time went on, and probably about every 10 years was the estimation we had there when we had to do that. Well, it's rolled around to 10 years. We actually had been budgeting for that, but we made a grant application for that renewal of that track, and the last government gave us $1.06 million. So we've just finished the renewal of that track. So basically that's back to how it was brand new 10 years ago. That's now still keeps its international accreditation. When you and I go for a run there, Rod, our world record will stand. So that's something to be very comforted by. And we'll now start budgeting for another 10 years' time. We'll need to do it all again.
All right, and Linda, quickly to help develop a community safety and crime prevention plan. The Dubbo Regional Council's put a call out to locals.
One of the things that's a little bit frustrating for councillors is that there is crime in Dubbo, there's crime across the state, there's crime across the nation, but people sometimes point to their local council and say, can you please help us with crime that's around at the moment? And the unfortunate part is that we as a council don't really have any of the levers to pull to make changes in crime. We don't control the police, we don't control sentencing regimes, we obviously don't control magistrates, so it's pretty hard for us to control crime per se. But one thing we do and can do is get various departments talking, various groups talking. So our community safety and crime prevention plan is all about how can we as a council help the other organisations, the other agencies to actually know what's going on, understand that, and for them to take the appropriate action. So part of it is about that communication, part of it is making sure these various agencies and groups know what's going on and seeing if we can do things. And so sometimes we can do small things. It might be CCTV, it might be lighting, there might be some ways we can activate a public space to reduce the possibility of crime there. But again, our job is really as a communicator or as someone to link up these groups and let the heavy lifting be done by the agencies responsible. I'm talking about the police and some of the agencies for the state government.
Right, and there is a series of meetings, public consultation, Dubbo Rotunda Markets on the 9th of June, Dubbo Square on the 12th of June, Wellington Rotary Place on the 22nd of June, and Western Plains Cultural Centre foyer on the 20th of June.
Yeah, and they are areas where we'll be doing some interaction with the public. People from the public can come along, talk to people about this whole crime prevention plan. So, yeah, you lay those out well there. And, of course, there's Your Say online as well. You can go and put submissions into Your Say as well.
Waste to art.
We have a lot of different exhibitions at our cultural centre, Rod. We have the Archibald Prize, the finalist prize we see there often. We have Art Express, we have the Bald Archies, a whole range of different private exhibitions. But my favourite every year is Waste to Art. I just find it incredibly clever that people take waste things they would throw out normally, things that would end up in landfill, and they turn that into art. And I love the creativity of people. I love the way people look at things a bit differently. The theme this year is the year of packaging. So we talk about things like bubble wrap, cardboard, wrapping, styrofoam, anything that's used to transport goods. And you don't think about that stuff that much, Rod. You pull out your new TV or your new computer and it's got packaging to protect it. Obviously, we don't think about that packaging, but unfortunately, there's about 1.9 million tonnes of that packaging in Australia each year that ends up in landfill. So how can we look at that packaging a little bit differently? And if you look at the 53 artworks on display there, people are very clever in the way they look at that packaging. So I recommend have a look at that. It's a free exhibition. The winners of that, which were announced last Saturday, the winners are tagged there so you can see the winners. They'll go into the regional finals. There are 18 different council areas that are in the Waste to Art program. So those winners from all those different 18 areas go into the regional finals, and then we'll see winners of those as well.
We're hearing from Matthew Dickinson, Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council. And what's happened with the folks from CSU?
Well, it's always very exciting to see CSU part of our community, and the latest graduation ceremony occurred last week. I get a bit of a buzz about going along to that. You can just see people there with their future in front of them, their futures laid out. Obviously, it's a very exciting day for them and their families who have been a major part of them attaining their degree. And so the graduation ceremony there is one of the things that congratulates those people, but I also think is a big signal to the rest of the community that we've got this education presence in Dubbo. We've got Charles Sturt University. We've got the University of Sydney School of Rural Health. We've got education opportunities, not just for Dubbo people, but from people around the entire region. People from out west that may not think they can make it to Sydney from an affordability perspective, for example, or maybe it's just too daunting going somewhere with 5 million people. We've got these education opportunities right here in Dubbo. So I think that really gives us a rounded community and helps gain some educational qualifications for people in the entire region, Rod.
Yep, a lot of people out this way have got family or friends in Dubbo. They can go and board with them for a year or two and help that family that way, and also help themselves with a great educational product that you got in Dubbo.
And one of the things we always see, Rod, is when people gain their education in a regional area, they're much more likely to stay in regional areas. And what I saw at the graduation ceremony last week, we had 47 graduates. Most of those graduates were in things like early childhood teaching in general, nursing as well. There are other degrees in there as well, but they were the main ones that I witnessed as I was watching that ceremony. And again, I know that some of those people there will be in our hospitals in this region. They'll be in our schools, in our daycare centres. All those educational opportunities they've got means that they're going to stay in this region more than likely. So that's pretty exciting as well.
I appreciate your time today.
Always my pleasure, Rod. Thank you.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.